Catalina Delgado Trunk shares her inspiration.
We all come here and we're all asking the same question. Where do we come from? Why in the world are we here? And where are we going? And every civilization or every culture, every group has to answer those questions for themselves because it gives it a meaning to your own personal life. Myths answer these questions. They're very, very powerful in every culture. As an immigrant, I lived between two worlds. And for many years, I really didn't feel like I had a sense of place and a sense of identity. All immigrants come with a basket, and there are three things in that basket that we all bring into the country, and that's food, language, and traditions. And I thought, well, then I had to start making use of my three C's. I found that the easiest way for me was through my artwork, particularly with the oral stories. I am a folk artist, okay? I work papel picado, which is cut paper, and it's called papel cortado or papel picado. Either way, it has a very long history. You have to remember that folk art, in whatever discipline it's expressed, is constantly evolving. It's an expression of a particular people, of who they are, their identity. As you search for identity and as you search for a sense of place, you obviously go back to your past. What is it that you heard? What is it that you learned as a child? So you had to dig into the memory, and that's what I started doing. And some of the myths, knew them kind of halfway, so I did a lot of research on them. You can see I have an awful lot of books. I do a lot of reading, and I keep going back to Mexico City and exploring. And I've concentrated on one particular area. It's the southeastern edge of Mexico City. Mixquic, Milpalta, Tecomilt. These are the areas that really stick to the real old traditions. I'm not an anthropologist. I'm not an archaeologist. I just learned a lot of this stuff through osmosis where I was growing up, family stories, oral histories from neighbors. And just mainly listening to makes me remember a lot of what I was. I was exposed a lot to the códices. The códices are the books that were written in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica, and I think there are only about 22 that survived, most of them in Europe, and I have reproductions of about just all of one. They're all pictographs. It's not writing. I've always been very attracted to them. And growing up in the culture that I did, you're surrounded by all of these symbols. The symbol of the jaguar, for example. The symbol of the jaguar goes to the myth of the jaguar. The rabbit goes to the myth of the rabbit. This is one of the creation myths. We live in the fifth sun. Okay, there have been 4 destructions of the world, the last one being a flood. For this new world that we live in, the gods got all together and built a big bonfire. Whoever jumped in would become the sun. So there was an old one, an old god, and a very young one that was very proud and egotistical, and he was going to be the son, okay? And he tried 3 times and couldn't do it. So the old one said, "Get out of my way," and he jumped in. He became the big son. Well, shamed the young one, embarrassed him. So he jumps in and creates a not as bright a one, but another son. And they said, no, we can't have 2 sons. So they threw a rabbit at the second one, and that's the moon. I do, when you look at the full moon, you see a rabbit, not a face. So there are a lot of rabbits in the myths about the moon. What's interesting in Mesoamerica, the idea of sin, heaven, hell simply did not exist. If you didn't behave during your lifetime, you were punished during your lifetime. But where you went after you died had nothing to do with how you live. It had everything to do with how you died. If you died as a warrior, you went to the sun god as an eagle, and you carried the sun from dawn until noon. Then you'd come back as a hummingbird in the afternoon carrying messages. If you died in childbirth, you also joined the sun and carried the sun from noon until sunset. And in the morning, you'd come back as a butterfly, the monarch butterfly, to bring the hearts of the warriors to the sun. Children that died before the age of 5 went to the land of the nursemaid tree, which was a big tree that dripped milk. And the little children would be restored back to health with this milk. And if you died of old age or another disease or whatever, you went to the Mictlan, the land of Mictlan Tecutli, the lord of the underworld. And it took you 4 years to reach there. You had to go through 9 different obstacles. And it was during those 4 years that families were duty bound to give you the food and the tools necessary to reach the Mictlan. That's your roots of your Dia de Muertos in Mexico. Art is really a very strong medium of universal communication. When you start seeing the humanity of all of us, that we're all here in this little planet all together, and we all have different life experiences, and when you share them, then you have a greater sense of understanding. How else are we going to ever get along? You don't reach out. That's the whole point of it all for me, not some exhibit in some gallery. Reaching out to people, building bridges and crossing those bridges, very important to me.